My name is Damalisali and I welcome you to this episode of the Ideation Corner. The Ideation Corner is a space where ideas are discussed and dissected. And today I host Ojok Okelo, who is the founder of Okere City. And he's going to tell us all about it. Okelo, you're very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Damali, for this opportunity. Okere City is a radical and very ambitious rural development plan to build the first sustainable city in Africa. And how are we doing it? We are doing this by establishing a set of social businesses that do not only create employment opportunities, but also provide goods and social services for the advancement or elevation of the community. We started the project in 2019, and
Just before COVID?
Yeah, just before COVID, really. We really started our operations around August of 2019, and we started one of our very first projects was a community school. But anyway, so before we even started the project, the idea of Okere City didn't exist. It didn't exist at all because I just returned to this village in 2018.
Okere.
Yeah, to Okere village. So Okere City is named out of a village in northern Uganda, Tuke district specifically. It's about 80 kilometers away from Lira town or Lira city now, but about 420 kilometers away from Kampala city. So it's really a community that was destroyed by war. If you understand, you know, the decades of conflict and instabilities that was mounted in the northern part of the region by both the Karimo-Jonkata rustlers, but also the Lord Resistance Army. And so when I went back to the village, I had been out of the village, one, because my father died when I was still a baby. My mother, of course, remarried, and so I spent all the time, you know, my childhood with my mom. But again, the quest for identity and wanting to belong pushed me back to kind of look for where my ancestors are, where
like
my
who am I?
who am I? Where do I belong? Who are my relatives really? And so when I went back home, I really found the bush. There was nothing at home. So I then had to ask myself a fundamental question. How do I use my skills? How do I use my talents? I mean, I'm a development worker. I studied rural and development studies from Okere University. I went to the London School of Economics to study international development. I'd worked in the development industry for over a decade. So I was equipped, you know, with all the skills, knowledge, but also networks. But initially it was really just me making myself comfortable in the village. But then over time, you know, as I started building little cottages for my own self and comfort in the village, I was soon to realize that this had to be more than myself, because little children started coming to play in my compound, and this was the time they were supposed to be in school. And I checked with them and they told me they are not going to school. I talked to their parents and saw a little house that I constructed to be my rest house was just almost instantaneously turned into a classroom.
Okay.
Yes, and so this really forms the basis of this project. And so when we started the school,
So that's why you were saying that it's not something like you start conceptualize and then went to Okere City.
No.
It just
It was the idea of Okere City arose really out of the need, you know, the need and the plethora of developmental challenges that this community found themselves and trapped in, and that, you know, there wasn't any way out of this trap, and anything that would bring a flicker of hope and a possibility for elevation would quite quickly be embraced by the
So
community.
it's not that the kids weren't going to school because they wasn't in school.
Yeah, they weren't going to school because they didn't want to school. They were not going to school because there was nowhere they could go to. The entire village didn't have an early childhood development center. The nearest primary school was about 4 kilometers away, and
and until they're primary school age, then they don't go to school until they're primary school age.
Yeah. So until they're 7 years old, they don't go to school, right? And so we started our early childhood development center in August of 2019, and within a stretch of 3 or 4 months, the number had skyrocketed from just 8 when these kids 8 kids started coming to school to about 120 by the end of 2019. But also when the parents started coming together, and conducting school businesses, because then the school is a community school. We all had to contribute. My contribution was the space and a little classroom, and perhaps also the teacher's salary, because we had to recruit a professional, early childhood development expert. But the community had to come and cook food for the kids. They had to bring food stuff. They had to, so every
they were volunteering.
They had to volunteer. That was the initial concept. So they found slowly this little space kept growing and expanding. And the parents, just said, we can't just come here to cook food for the children, to bring firewood and grass and all these things. How about we come together and then start also like village savings and lending activities amongst us? So the parents, about 60 of them, came together and they started lending and lending money amongst themselves, saving. And by the end of 2019, and this was just between July to December of the same year, they had saved up to about 3.5 million shillings. This was the biggest savings this village had ever experienced. And remember, it wasn't a full year cycle from January to December.
Just 3 months.
It was just about 3 months. So this kind of gave a lot of hope and enthusiasm and interest amongst the community members to continue working together, because they could then see that
they could see the
together,
value in numbers.
Yeah.
We've come together. We can really do it. We now have a school. We have a saving group that's making money. Okay.
And so with numbers and with a common vision and purpose, the community then actually realized that they could achieve much more. And so we continued operating like this. And of course, 2020 started and we started our school program, and the number skyrocketed. We had 200 children, from 120 in December of the last year, and there were lots of activities, but also we had started a grocery shop in the village because the parents needed to have access to scholastic materials, to sugar, salt, and soap, and all these things. So the space really started growing and expanded organically. And all these kind of activities and operations made this like little space at where the grocery store is, like it emerged into like a market square, where community members brought cassava, brought sweet potatoes, brought shea butter to sell
to buy and sell
amongst themselves, and then they could get a little extra penny to go to the shop and then buy salt or sugar or whatever it is they needed at home. So this is really the story of how this started. We had not envisioned this project, at least not yet. But then, of course, as a social entrepreneur myself and as a development worker, I had to turn this around, into, something more formal, into something, with some framework, with some structure.
Yeah.
Because I could see that, informally and organically, it was morphing out into something amazing. And so that is how the idea of the Okere City project came about. I just imagined that, Kampala City could have been a swamp a century or so ago. London, or, well, Dubai.
Oh yeah.
In our lifetime
Yes.
was a dry land full of
With nothing. Just camels.
goat and camel keepers. But now we see the kind of city it is because of will
Yeah.
and human effort,
True.
right? But why do people go to Dubai again? People go to Dubai for opportunities
Yes.
and perhaps social amenities. So couldn't we create
we do the
this
same?
in Okere?
Couldn't Okere City become that?
Yeah. So definitely Okere City is not going to be Dubai. Okere City is going to emerge as a city centered on the interests, and possibilities within the community, both culturally, socially, and otherwise. And we are going to pursue, businesses and social entrepreneurial possibilities that re-echo, with the heartbeat and the senses within her community.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we were speaking earlier before we came on, you told me that so there's a school, Okere City. There's a school that grew organically. Then there's this shop. Then there's a community financial group, and you also told me that there's a healthcare center. Again, all these are just needs, community needs.
Yeah.
They're not addressed.
Yes.
How do you manage the healthcare center? How is it managed?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I am not a public health expert. Neither am I
An education expert.
an educationist. But within the community, there are people who've been part of the system. There are teachers. There are either young people who've just finished their college education training, or there are even old men and women who are teachers who have retired. So how do I then bring these individuals together and give them newer and better possibilities, perhaps? So for the health center, we have a trained medical expert who manages the daily operations of the facility. All I have to do is put in a monitoring framework and a system in place that makes sure that, everything is being reported in a formally hierarchical order. And the same is true for the school. There is a professional teacher, there is a headmaster, a teacher, who oversees the operations of the school.
And they're part of the education system. They're part of the education system.
Yes, okay. So they are teachers themselves, they are trained professionals. And this kind of work, so I can be in Kampala, I could be wherever, in whichever part of the world, but I know that things are operating quite effectively, which actually is a system I want to develop, because I do not want the city to depend
to fully only depend on your presence.
On my presence, because we all die, or maybe I'll not be interested in the idea for whatever reason, but the idea must still continue thriving. Yeah. So there are local and informal systems, both formal and informal operations and systems in place that make sure that things, operate.
Things are working
quite effectively.
But I like that even the professionals that you're using in the school, the professionals that are, helping in the health care center, these are professionals from the community.
Yes. Yeah, and that was very important, because at the end of the day, this is a community social enterprise. Perhaps that's another term that should be included in these all social entrepreneurship discussions. So when we bring the idea of community into social enterprises, I think it gives it a new twist, a new idea of sustainability, because then these are not just businesses operated by a social entrepreneur, but also where communities, local people are at the center stage of managing and ensuring that they operate quite effectively. So the teachers, the nurse, everybody who is part of this project really are people from within the community. And sometimes if we do not have the expertise from the local community, we bring experts and they train our local communities, and then they take it up. For instance, we are doing a lot of bamboo constructions, and initially the idea of using a bamboo to build a wall was almost, unthinkable in the village. So I had to bring
because they use the mud.
Yes. So we use the bamboos, to erect like our classrooms, our guest houses, and all the major structures we have in the city are actually built
bamboo.
out of bamboo because we have to be sustainable, right? Like we have to use our local materials, the materials that exist within the community.
Okay.
So we have the bamboos and we have the elephant grass in abundance. And so why can't we use this?
that.
So we have to bring in the experts, like maybe professional carpenters, who could just give these young folks in the village, the skills that they need to continue. And to our greatest advantage, this has been an incredible success.
Okay. Yes, I've seen the pictures of those were very interesting. I imagined that I could sleep in that hut. Didn't know it was a school. I was like, oh, this looks really pretty. I would love to sleep in there.
Yeah, we actually, in addition to the classroom, we also have like the guest rooms, the guest houses, which are also built with the elephant grass and the bamboos. And they're quite nice, actually.
Okay. So
they're quite executive, organically executive.
And you should put a premium in it. You're sleeping in an organic house. No, because everyone, they charge a premium on anything organic, so why not?
Yeah. I mean, there are just very many possibilities to what we can do using the materials that exist. Sometimes we just need to just think a little harder and just imagine what these things could do. Because, I mean, I'd never, really seen a bamboo house. Perhaps I had not taken my time, but as soon as I got the interest, and there's a lot of materials online in countries like Indonesia that have gone a notch higher.
They do a lot with bamboo.
And I mean, you could study. So it is like gone to the extent that the beds we have, the chairs we have in the village, all these are made with bamboos.
And it's based on skills that, okay, fine, the experts came, but now they taught the locals. So
yes.
The locals can then
do it. The locals can then do it.
And this bamboo is there.
Yeah, the bamboo is there.
Okay.
And the elephant grass is there. Yeah, we can grow it, we can rewild the village with bamboos. So these are possibilities that we
can even green.
Yeah.
Like, the whole climate change issues.
Yeah.
You can actually green the environment.
Yeah, and bamboos actually are really one of the best trees that absorb carbon dioxide.
Oh,
so
for these carbon emissions.
Yeah, the emissions. Yeah.
That's interesting. So you have so much further. You need to take Okere City.
Yes. I think Okere City can only so we need to really continue demonstrating within the village that the idea can work.
Yeah.
And for the 2 years, and sustainable. And for the 2 years that we've been operating, at least there is enough impact to demonstrate that things are moving on well, especially in as far as elevating the community is concerned. At the moment, we have 200 kids in school, right? Receiving like the best education, not just education, because the teachers are some of the best teachers we have in the village. They underwent a rigorous recruitment process. They're being paid, that we pay them a decent salary, so we can still attract and retain even the best of teachers. Our health facility on a daily basis provide medical treatment to up to 25 rural community members. Our grocery store on an average day provides basic goods merchandise to up to 150 people in the community. We have a local restaurant that serves about 30 to 50 people every day. We have a boxing club, and the story of the boxing club is even more unique because when we were displaced in the internally displaced people's camps, people, there were very many NGOs providing psychosocial and social support projects and activities. And one of the projects that was very common then was boxing, as a form of therapy and psychosocial support. But unfortunately, when these young people went back to the villages, they started misdirecting the skills of boxing and fighting to be the village thugs, to be the village thieves.
Okay.
But when we started this project, they actually came and just said that they were tired of living this life. They were now looking for how best they could redirect this skill and this talent, for greater good. That's how come we started a boxing club, and every day they come, train, and hopefully soon we will have
a boxing champion.
Hopefully.
Who was an amateur in Okere City. You seem to be doing a lot more. And I wanted to talk about the guest house because you didn't talk much more. So you're saying that I can come from Kampala and say I'm going to stay in the Okere City guest house for a week.
Yes.
As a holiday, a vacation, a trip.
Yes. So and so the idea of the community tourism arose because, one, we really want the world to know and understand what we are doing, and sometimes there is just a limit to how much knowledge and information you can consume online, or even when we meet and we discuss like this. But when you come, like you have like that first-hand, organic, authentic experience, it never leaves you the same again. And so that is what we are doing. We are now developing Okere City as a community tourism destination, where people who are passionate and interested in community development, and in human-centered designs, come over to Okere City, and they get immersed into the community and they experience how life is in the community. And because of this, we have to provide a certain level of comfort. Of course, you are not going to get what you get in a 5-star hotel in Okere City. But
that's not what you came for.
Yeah, definitely.
Otherwise, you've been in a 5-star hotel.
Yeah, but what you will get is, an experience that I can say you've never experienced anywhere.
Completely unique.
Completely unique, completely organic.
Okay. You're doing something with shea butter.
Yes.
I saw that. I saw you posting something with shea butter.
Yeah, and the story of the shea butter is something like this. So at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, we were trying our best, but still things weren't pushing. So one evening I was taking a siesta, under a big shea tree, which is right in my compound. And the fruits that started fruiting, the leathery leaves of the shea tree, were shaking and moving in unison, quite nice. And I kept studying the winds and how they were blowing the leaves, and the shea fruits. They were still young, but they looked so nice. And it just occurred to me that we were not doing enough,
anything with
with it. Like this wonderful tree, that could give us these beautiful fruits for up to 400 years. Like we were not doing enough to even protect.
Shea grows only in a few countries.
Yeah.
Period. Only in a few countries.
Yeah, that's true. So shea trees grow in 21 countries, in Africa. So it would not grow anywhere else apart from Africa. And that's just a niche. And I got so interested in this whole shea butter and I started reading.
Did you Googling?
Yeah, I Googling. But the unfortunate bit is that the first information I got was like shea butter in West Africa. And how these West African companies impacted people, empowered people, and made billions because of shea. I'm like, why? Like, I have it here. Like, it's right here. Like, why can't I using it, to our greatest advantage? And, but just when I, read that, the global market share for shea butter is like 1.2 billion US dollars, and it keeps doubling every year.
Prime product.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, I have to position my community. I have to turn this product into like the vibranium, like what fuels transformation in my village. And that is when we started talking to the community, just exploring what the possibilities could be. And then, we decided that when we were going to set this up, I don't want to emerge as some middleman who then exploits this.
Basically makes all the value out of it.
Yeah, but why can't we do this as a cooperative society? So we started a shea butter cooperative society. We worked around the process, but in July, we already, had collected shea nuts from the farmers, and we had, we launched our product into the marketplace, Okere shea butter. And between July and December of 2020, we were able to make a net profit of about $2,000.
Seriously, from
Yeah.
the shea products?
Yeah, from the share products. I mean,
Wow.
of course, this wasn't a lot of money, but
No, given where you were sitting under the tree,
Yeah.
doing nothing with it.
yes,
And then
Yeah.
you're making money out of it.
yeah, and the community couldn't even believe. So I started, initially the shea butter. We only ate the shea butter, right? Like it's like vegetable
eaten.
oil.
Okay.
And I mean, when we were children, our mothers used a little shea butter to smear us, but that stops. Then people start, of course, using
Vaseline.
the Vaseline, the petroleum,
Which is not healthy.
which is quite dangerous for the skin,
It's
right?
petrol.
Yeah, but then once people started realizing that, hey, shea butter
valuable.
is not just to eat,
You can use it
you
for-
can actually use it on your skin, and you can actually also sell it. So what I did is I came to Kampala and went to the supermarket and bought shea butter with price labels on them. And so I went to we organized community meetings. So I asked them, how much do you think this shea butter is? Most of them would state like prices which were like 100 times less.
Nowhere close to the real value.
Yeah. So they could tell me it's 5,000 or 10,000, and I show them the price
real
tag,
price. Yeah.
and it is 35,000 or 50,000.
And you're like, and we have this thing. We have it here.
Like, we have it here. But so that was really very important to make them understand the value imbued within this resource
Yeah.
that they were destroying.
Which is unique.
Because they were cutting down the shea trees because they didn't see any economic value.
There was a time I was talking to someone where they were cutting it down for firewood.
Yeah, for charcoal.
Imagine.
For charcoal.
Firewood and charcoal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a unique thing. It's
yeah.
not anywhere.
it only grows here.
Yeah. And you could make much more money from it.
Yeah.
Actually.
And for 500 years.
Yeah. The one tree survives for 500 years?
Yes.
Wow, it doesn't die.
It doesn't.
It doesn't die. So I'm glad.
When
I saw that, I was like, wow, this is really nice, because I could see that you've turned like a product, it's a natural advantage that is in that region, turning it around, adding value to it. And then I know that nowadays is that movement. I actually use shea butter for my body when I understood how bad the Vaseline is.
Yeah, I should get your Okere shea butter. You'll never turn back.
And yet we have it. We have it there, and we're using it. And then I remember I was speaking to Kentaro, and her problem, because she uses shea butter, and her problem that she couldn't find a consistent supplier of shea butter, and she had to engage a lot of these farmers.
And that is true. And that is true because for a long time, organization, we haven't been able to organize the farmers. I mean, we struggle to date. I can tell you that, at the moment, if you ask me for a large supply of shea butter, I'm not going to give you, because I have to ration supply. Oh. Right? Yeah. But this is because of a lack of organization over the years. That is what we have to do. One, what are we going to do? We are going to mobilize the farmers, sensitize the farmers not to destroy the shea trees that we have, so that we have the trees.
Yeah.
Two, we are going to rewild. We are going to plant more shea trees, right? So that we continually have the shea nuts. Because it's
the constant supply.
The
do
constant
they fruit and then they go when they fruit?
Yeah, so they fruit. I mean, it's like a normal nut. Yeah, like mangoes.
Oh,
it's
okay.
even a
so there are periods when they're not there.
Yeah, there are periods when they're not there. But so again, how do you store it? How do you harvest it between May and July, and then you store it until the next year?
Yeah.
So that's the investments that we've been putting in place. We now have a huge shea house with a warehouse with a processing. We are now thinking of investing in processing machines, but so this is what we've been doing. And in the coming 2 or 3 years, we shall be able to position ourselves to have a successful operational structure in place.
But then are you looking beyond Okere City? Because shea, being a very unique product, but currently people who don't see any value in it in northern Uganda, who are not yet making money out of it. I feel like it's bigger. Like,
Yeah.
and then it also helps to green the environment anyway, in a natural way, because it's an planting foreign trees, saying that yeah, we're trying to reforest, but you can't reforest with a foreign tree. You have to reforest with an indigenous tree.
Yeah.
That's what makes sense to the ecosystem anyway.
Yes, that is true. So I mean, that perhaps begs the bigger question of what should be the full-blown scale of operation of Okere City. The truth and the honest truth is that we are never going to expand. It doesn't exist
it's
in our
Okere
strategy because it's Okere City, and so I mean, as the visionary, I only have a short time. I can, of course, encourage people to move on with this dream and all this, but the truth is that, I mean, I'm going to do whatever is within the scope of my possibilities and powers to protect the shea trees in Okere.
Okay.
Okay.
And you hope someone can then
and I
see
hope
the model
and
replicate it.
I hope that the local leaders in the other villages, and I hope that communities in the other villages can borrow and live.
Okay.
From what we are doing, right? Because we just don't have too much time.
True. So unfortunately, we've run out of time. What are your last words? I feel like we had so much more to say, but anyway, we've run out of time. What do you want to say, as your parting words?
Yeah, I mean, I first of all, I want to invite all of us to come over to Okere just for a visit. Most of the times, for the people who've come, this visit never leave them the same again. But also, most importantly, it is my hope and expectation that several villages across the African continent pick up a leaf and learn from the little things we are doing to transform our village, so that you could do the same in your villages. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you've heard it from Ojok Okelo. Please, wherever you can, visit Okere City or buy their products, or just check them out online as well. Anything you can do to help Okere City. And if you're a local leader and you can borrow the model, please do, because clearly it works. Thank you.